I think deploying capital, deploying time, deploying resources is really what events comes down to. So today, pre and post show discussions, particularly strategy and tactics and engagement in these areas. How are we engaging people pre-show, engaging people post-show? And I have a very good friend of mine, Doug Foley. Doug's been on the show before. Doug actually came, presented, and spoke at our EMC, the Event Marketing Congress, which he crushed. Doug is an entrepreneur, author. He's the president of Giant Go. It's a marketing agency. Doug, welcome. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate when you join us.
Always good to hang out with you. I'll do it anytime you ask. Good to be here.
Rock and roll, man. I love it. For those of you that don't know, Doug and I went to college together, played college golf together. It's super cool to keep our relationship going. I think plus 20 years now.
Absolutely. I didn't think we'd be here, but happy we are.
Yeah. I didn't know where we would be. All right, let's rock and roll. A few things just to start. I think, as I always start with kind of foundational here, I think deploying capital, deploying time, deploying resources is really what events comes down to, right? From an organizational standpoint. And that means that we need to get asses in the seats, right? We got to get people to show up. We got to get people to come engage with us. And then in turn, that is how we create conversions. That is how post-show with the follow-up here, where we drive pipeline, we push company initiative, we make partnerships, we develop referrals, we increase average customer sale, you name it. But you got to get people there. We need asses in the seats. We're going to talk today about driving booth traffic, getting activation attendance, optimize lead engagement, improving conversion and pipeline movement. And again, we will talk some strategy. And Cody put the peach in the chair, the ass in the seat. Very nice, Cody. Very clever. We will talk strategy and tactics. So we will do a mix of both, because I think without the strategy, just throwing tactics at you is completely useless in my opinion. So Doug, let's kick off with pre-show. And I think you and I super aligned on this from a strategic standpoint, that audience, let's call it clarification. We know that this isn't obvious, but let's talk a little bit about what strategy looks like when you are clarifying your audience before.
100%. I will tell you, like, I think we've gone through this every show we've done. We did at EMC. I think every time we talk about the importance pre-show, post-show, and pre-show planning
Yeah.
is often going to be the differentiator of success or failure. And a lot of that, to your point, comes down to audience. And are you having the conversations with the right people to get them to show up to your event? And I think this is the piece where there's a huge misalignment of determining, is there a match between the right audience and the type of event? So there are certain
Yeah.
shows that are buying shows. There are certain shows
Yep.
that are networking shows, or if it's your own event, are you prospecting the right people who are going to come, be attentive, and align with the goals you have with the show? So, for
Yeah.
example, I'll give you an example. We're going to an investor conference for a PE firm, and that whole
hmm
design is to set up meetings with funding partners and funds. So it's booking a meeting. I think a lot of people would benefit of getting real clarity on, number one, what's the goal? And number two, am I talking to the right person to make sure that conversation, that experience, that goal
Yes.
meets? But I don't think that happens enough.
I would agree with you. You know, I have a good example. One of the clients that we work with, they have a trade show where specifically it is all merger and acquisition for them. Like they're not like it's just a different animal than their other shows, right? Like their other shows, the audience is different. It's going straight to their end user, right? They're doing demonstrations, they're having conversations, they're trying to pull people in to engage them, you know, relay their value proposition, all that stuff. But they have one show specifically where if you're not having an audience conversation and you're just on the rabbit wheel, you're like, whoa, whoa, we're here specifically for merger and acquisition talk. It's more private, and the way that you scheme and set up and do pre-show and everything has to be different. And I think some of the questions that I like to ask is obviously who. I want to know why. And what I mean by why is, why are they there? Not why are you there? Why are they? I think that is so important. It's such a piece that people miss. Why are they there? You gotta, what's the saying? Like meet people where they're at. Like, so you can't be tone deaf. I see so many companies that do stuff that's completely tone deaf to their audience. So understanding why they're there, And then I think the other side is understanding the type of stakeholder, right? We have another client where as we go through process with them and as we create strategy and then of course, deploy trade show boots and execution for them, we just realized like they have two different people that they're talking to at these trade shows and where are they located? We have one audience that we're trying to get to activations off site and we have another audience that we're engaging in the booth. So audience clarification, you have to have it. I don't know about you, Doug. I recommend doing it with marketing and sales, right? Like having those conversations.
100%. And I think there's a missed opportunity when you talk about audience. There's probably a whale list that exists, or each group of
Mm,
salespeople has like, hey, these are my target 10 or my target
I love
25.
that.
And the better and earlier you can identify and work with them. And here's the unique thing. And it's really hard as an event marketer, I'm sure, because your goals are pretty much based on that event and the circumstances or results of that event. But often you may have, especially if you're in B2B, you might have a 2 or 3 year sales cycle. So your first year might actually be, hey, we're going to get them to the activation of the offsite event. Next year, or if, let's say you have a fall, summer, or fall, spring, or spring, fall type sequence where there's two events, you may hit them. You have to be more strategic and more lockstep with the sales team. Be like, hey, you tell me, like, if this is, we're going to take a cold prospect, bring them in, create an experience. Then the next time we interact with them, 6 months down the road, we're going to have a buying conversation. There's
Yeah.
not enough thought to go deep and understand, like, you're building a relationship with a human. And that is the beauty of all types of event marketing is you can accelerate a buying cycle because one, you create experiences and they're more memorable. And as much as we want to be pragmatic and make numerical decisions, we still make emotional decisions. And
Mhm.
events are the single best way to do it. It's why I love them so much. So
Yeah.
being very clear on not just like checking the box, oh, we got the attendance, this person showed up. What did we accomplish for that person? Whether it
Yeah.
was building a relationship with sales or our brand, and then what did we help them solve? That clear goal.
Mhm.
Like we've got to move them down the journey in some capacity. But if you don't start with the sales team and figure out where are they, which you meant, who are they, and what is that piece that needs to happen to further the customer journey, it can't just be about the tchotchkes that get in the bag and go into a cool dinner.
Mhm.
It's got to
Yeah.
facilitate some type of movement. And that takes specific clarity with you, your marketing, your sales teams to understand what are we trying to make happen and how
Yeah.
does this make it do that?
It's alignment really. And I think there's two things you touched on that I have later on here, but I love them. So I want to hover on them really quickly. One is that comment about the whale, right? Like I have a thing in here. It says like, who are the game changing accounts that are potentially, I'm not saying that they're going to be there, but if you have 400 of them, or maybe you don't have 400, but you have an ABM list of 400, 500, but there's like 30 of them, like start carving through that. How do you get this is your chance? And relaying to your next point is events, because they're face to face, they are a catalyst. That the opportunity at an event, whether big or small, is that when you're face to face, you can really progress people in their cycle with you, right? From being window shoppers, they kind of know about you, to pipeline, to working on a deal, to closing, to changing their perception of you. Like you make big leaps and bounds there. All right, let's go. Next piece that I think is super important from a strategy standpoint, and we'll dive into a few tactics is what's the offer? I have seen talk to so many people, they have no offer. You got to create an offer. It's like the oldest game in the book in marketing is what are you offering? It's like, you know who's amazing at this, Doug? And this is a stupid example, but I'm going to say it, Domino's. They are the best. For years, I'm like, why are they telling me that they're going to get this pizza to my house in 20 minutes? Like, I'm like, like all these, they always come up with something different. It's this like offer, this like wild thing that you're like, damn, like, I don't even know if I need that, but I kind of want it. But like an offer. So my point is, what is your offer when you are asking people to come to your booth, to come to your engagement, to come and talk to you? Because essentially you do need one. And I think they need to do a couple things. They need to drive value, they have to intrigue, they have to be exclusive, they need to deliver education, they could be pure fun, or they could be more of like an experience. They don't have to do all of those things, but your offer has to have something that stems from there. And I have some ideas and things and examples that I can list through, but I want to get your thoughts, Doug, on crafting the offer before we talk about databases, emailing, LinkedIn messages, cold calling, smoke signals, AI bots. Like, you need an offer.
100%.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to make one assumption here, or I'll preface this with one caveat. I'm going to assume that when you're coming up with an offer, you've already gone through the first part with the identification we covered pre-show. And I'll be honest, like when we work with clients on this, we cheat all the time. We use AI. So we've built out personas, so we know who the people are. We kind of know what their products. The one thing I will tell people they cannot do, this is the one thing you have to avoid whenever you craft an offer, never make an offer based on feature benefits. Doesn't convert because people are selfish. Offers always have to figure out how to move somebody closer to their desired state. That can be a state of joy, it can be a cool experience.
Wait, say that one more time. I thought that was a really great little quip there. Say it again about the offer
A
and moving
really
people.
good offer has to move somebody closer to their desired state.
Love that. So I think that's just my point on that, Doug, is when someone's thinking, or like there's a lot of event marketers on this call that would be working with marketing.
Yep.
And when you're working with them, you have to be saying, what is this desired state that we're looking to move them to? Right. So how do we craft an offer that helps do that? I think it's just a foundational thing.
And like that's the perfect time to work with marketing because they'll want to
Yep.
like promote a product or a feature or service is like, hey, best in the world, we're really good at this, XYZ. That's cool, but that doesn't move me to want to stop there. What I want to know is, for example, like, hey, how to unlock the power of AI in 10 minutes. Stop by our booth in 10 minutes. I'll show you how to master AI so you can go back and save 10 hours a week. That serves me.
Yep.
So like understanding the art that exists within an offer is going to be the piece that gets people to booth. Once you have that offer theme though, then you can start to reverse engineer like, how do I pitch this? How do I market this? How do I work with sales so people know the value they're going to get by coming to the booth? Whatever, you gave a great list of what those tangible benefits are and those outcomes. Then you can reverse engineer, okay, I've nailed the offer. Now I'm going to figure out how am I going to market and how am I going to follow up on it. So it's consistent pre-show, post-show. And that thread is often what happens. One of the worst things that can happen is you bait and switch somebody. You position an offer, they get there, you don't deliver on it.
I hate,
It's all
don't even get me. Don't get that leads me to, and I won't talk on it too long because I hate it, but that leads me to when events frame a session and then it's a pitch.
horrible.
I mean, I'm literally getting to the point that if I walk into another one, I'm going to stand up and say something. Like, I can't handle the disingenuous nature of it anymore. This makes me think about, we just did work with one of our clients. They have this really cool fan system, and the whole sell on the system is the simplicity of it and that it replaces a bunch of other components, easy to install, easy to ship, this whole thing. I mean, we basically had to build them these walls, and they installed this massive fan system that works with the HVAC unit in commercial buildings. But like, the offer was basically like coming by to see how this, like almost like a challenge, like seeing how this gets installed and works so you can visualize it for yourself. And that played into who the audience and customer is 100%. Like, you're talking to people that are installing it, people that are selling it, so they need to see and know the feature benefit of what they're selling to upsell it, and then to people that own commercial buildings, essentially, who are installing these fans in, being like, oh my God, the last time I did something like this, it took a week and a half. You know, they were like, we're just going to get right to the nuts and bolts of this, and we're going to physically show people. That was their offer. It made all the sense in the world.
Well, that's the beauty of experiential marketing.
Yep.
It's more of a, I'll show you, I won't tell you. You could loiter them with as much marketing collateral as you want, but when you can show them and they see their problem
Come see
solved,
it, baby. Yeah, agreed.
you win all day.
I have some examples here, and if you have any, just let me know. I have some broad stroke ones of things that I've seen that we've done, or others that we've worked with have done that worked. One is, running a podcast in your booth. It's really just holding a live discussion, and people love to talk the industry. And I'm not going to talk about that one because I've talked about it a ton, but I think it's a great execution. People love, they're at an industry event. It's relevant. It's top of mind. You're meeting them where they're at. Another is like hosting panel discussions, peer to peer. People love to hear from their peers. Forget the keynotes, forget experts that come in. Nothing wrong with a good speaker, but like, host a panel discussion. You have a big enough booth and you have some space, run a panel discussion, market it, and get people in there. Do Q&A. create conversation. That's value for people. I think offsite you can run think tanks. We've seen people do that. Liz Nathan with Cody knows. Amici, whatever. They do a great job of it and they do it at events. Cody, what's Liz's last name? Not Liz Nakron from Live Marketing. Liz
Latham, Latham.
La Club Ichi. Sorry. Yes, got it. They do a great job with think tanks, like specifically, but right, of helping you organize and run them. Sorry, I just had a complete brain fart. Doing demos, product and physical demonstration, gamification, right? We're working on gamification right now for a client of ours with like, it's a little bit of like an avatar creation. It takes you on an experience. It integrates into a video wall, this whole piece, right? Giveaways. These are all basic stuff. One of my favorite examples ever, and I've talked about it, but I don't care. I'm going to keep talking about Monogram, which is the GE brand high-end appliances, right? They did an incredible booth at Kitchen and Bath Show, and they had this, it was a kitchen. It looked like this beautiful kitchen out of a house in Sonoma, California, right? Like, and what they did was they had this huge island bar in a real kitchen setting, and it was on the aisle. So you could look in, it was roped off. So it looked private. They had people in there. They were doing like wine tasting and food tasting, and somebody had a headset on, and they were going through this kitchen and running through their products. But it was an experience. They were feeding you, wine and dining you. It drew attention. It was exactly what people that are purchasing, I'm assuming large purchasers of their stuff want. They want to see the product. They want to know it. They want to learn about it. So they're running through. It was brilliant. It was on display. And that is, again, going back to what we were talking about, Doug, they know who the customer was, right? They know why that they are there. They are there to learn about products and then come back and sell the shit out of them, right? So give them an experience that they want. Who doesn't want to be wine and dined a little bit, drink some wine, sit in a setting, get fed, and learn about a product? Like, I'm all in. That's just a great example. I don't know if you have any, but those are things that I've seen that I think those are great offers that you can offer to people.
I don't necessarily have any that would top that. What I do have is ones I would not do.
Go ahead.
I think all too often they're doing things like the iPad, like come get a free iPad when they're not Apple.
Yeah.
And they're focused on appeasing everybody or driving volume, and they're not focused on driving or drawing the right traffic. And I think stop worrying about just mass and getting the right people and creating the right experience, you'll win. But I hate those like fish bowls of cards for no reason.
Yeah, we've talked about, I think on the giveaway side, like if you're going to give away something give away something valuable that people want, and then make it worth their time when they come and enter to be able to get into it. There's one tactical one that I really like that I stole from Pablo, who used to produce our show and has helped me a ton with this podcast. Was he really loves the play, and he's run it. We've run it where you do like a happy hour or you do a dinner offsite. And then what you do is you invite one of the keynotes or one of the industry leaders or speakers or somebody from the conference to attend that and be like guest of honor. And you do a little speaking discussion, you do a Q&A, and now you get people that you want, your prospects, to come to this, and they want to hear and be involved in a discussion with somebody. It just has a nice tone. It's a great offer, right? You're saying, hey, exclusive ticket to X happy hour. We're hosting a session with A and B. They know who that person is because they're doing the keynotes or one of the keynotes. Just simple ideas.
That's awesome.
I think it's creative because you're giving, it's like, what do these people want and why are they there? And you're trying to meet them there.
The key to any big offer is that pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
If it's something just different enough that, hey, I'm competing. I mean, at the end of the day, you're competing against time at events. And yours needs to be different enough to get the pattern up. Be like, yeah, that actually sounds pretty cool. I'm going to go to that instead of this random one that I've been going to for 3 years because it's the same one.
And prior, Doug, I think there's a lot of noise, and we're going to get now into like marketing, leveraging partners, working with sales and tactical things to do with them. My whole rant on this offer thing is like, make a compelling offer. So whether it's a giveaway, whether it's an experience, whether it's to come to your booth, whether it's a demo, whatever it is, make an offer that people are like, yeah, like that hits. But just doing something that you think is cool is probably not, it may or may not be cool. That's why it needs to be rooted in a foundation of the customer, of the audience who is ideal and why they are there. You must go through the motions and think about those things. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to do a game and then we're going to do a giveaway." Sure, it probably works, but like Mandy always says, to a degree, those are like swag hounds. You're going to get people that just like the game and want to be involved in the raffle, right? You want to target your audience and engage them. So I think that foundational strategic work is perfect. Just note for anybody, if you have any questions, there's Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Throw them in there. Doug and I will do our very best to get to them. And as you know, we always try to reward questions, not with gifts and giveaways, but with good answers. So Doug, let's talk kind of marketing. And I think marketing can either be internal, who you are working with, or it could be a partner, such as yourself or us that you are working with prior. I'll throw some stuff at you and then I'll let you kind of, what do the kids say? Let you cook, right? So I like the idea of coming up with campaigns. That comes and stems from the offer. That's getting creative with it. Creating collateral. You need collateral. Things like QR codes. You need digital assets. I think you need things that you can track, book meetings, know the progress of who's booking, and then tie those into how you follow up. Just want to get your thoughts on, for someone that's an event marketer, going to a trade show and they're either working with a partner or they're working with internal marketing. Speak on some of those things and kind of once they have the offer carved, what should they be trying to do?
Absolutely. So the one thing I will say that we are very bullish on is you have to have a customer journey and you have to know it down to a T. You have to know the critical points. So with that caveat, one of the things that we typically look at is figuring out where the people are. So we talked about we're going to identify them. We need to know what channels they're in. So how do we communicate? I will tell everybody, the better you can plan this out in advance and use as many mediums as possible, the higher likelihood of getting attendance. So mail is not dead.
No,
Direct
I
mail is
agree.
incredibly powerful. And if you architect it well, with a QR code, you can convert and figure out how do I get the attendance. It's highly unused. If you have a sales team, handwritten notes are absolutely killer. I will tell you, it is a sleeper. It's old school, but still works. You want somebody, get them to handwrite an invitation.
And people are going back to the office, Doug. I mean,
And
people,
hordes, big
which
time.
makes it easier to do physical mailing versus when people are working from home. So just want to drop that in there.
100%.
Yeah,
But I can tell you a handwritten note or a handwritten invitation, it's going to go a long way.
love that.
Especially if like you're trying to create a sales, like an opportunity where sales can deepen a relationship. That's a winner. One of the biggest, and this is probably the best use of AI that we use for every client, there is a sequence we call a Fibonacci sequence. It is designed for email marketing, but you can also use it to help plan how far back you need to go and the sequencing of messaging to increase attendance. It is a scientifically proven process. It is a naturally occurring frequency. So if you look this up, you're actually going to see that shape that looks like a seashell that gets bigger and bigger the further out you go. It's naturally reoccurring in nature. That's called the Fibonacci sequence. And it works both for pre-show. So anything you're doing, it'll have a predetermined cadence, but it also works the same cadence in reverse as a
Mhm.
follow-up sequence.
Got
So
it.
we use that as a mechanism to say, hey, help me develop a plan leading up to marketing the event and a plan for follow-up. And then we use that to help, okay, help me with the invitations, help me with the emails, help me with it. And it'll automatically help you produce, I would say 15 to 20 emails or postcards, whatever you want to do. But that's where we start to leverage AI to create more meaningful, proven sequences to help draw people to that offer that you create for the show.
How easy or not is that?
I We can show you right now if you guys want to see an example. If I can share a screen, we can do it right now.
Rock and
Um,
roll. Yeah.
did anybody have a
Rock and roll.
show? Just see if we can make this as contextual as possible.
Can you
If any,
share? Hold on.
yeah, yeah, I'll share
Let
this.
me,
But does anyone have a show coming up?
I'll set it.
Um,
I'll change the setting here.
yeah, if you can drop a show coming up, and we can use Exhibitor Live. I know you mentioned that.
NAB. Mandy said
NAB.
NAB.
Okay, NAB
She
show,
was first one to pull the trigger there.
and that is April 5th to
Enterprise
9th.
Connect. Kathy, we used to do so much business in Enterprise Connect. RSA. Yeah.
Yeah, when's the next one coming up? April 5th to 9th, the NAB
April
show?
5th to 9th is NAB.
Yep. All right. Well, let's pull this. I will share in 1 second here.
Natural Expo West.
I'm going to start. I'm just going to share my screen. And Matt, if you can just give me a verbal yes, this is it, because I may not see you at the same time. This is the NAB show, this one here,
That's
Vegas.
it, brother. Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Let's
up.
just copy this and then we're going to head over to our good friend chat.
Mandy says, oof, Expo West gives me PTSD. Yeah, I know. So that's awesome.
What company, who brought this up? I'll just throw their company name as well.
Mandy's with Seagate.
Sorry, what was the name of the company?
Seagate. Seagate. Put exhibiting, not attending, because they're exhibiting at NAB. I assume, Mandy, but
You know what?
yep.
The thing I love most, it's funny being an author. I'm not an editor. My spelling is atrocious. I don't even
Oh, dude,
think
I
I could
can't even.
spell the word atrocious, but
Dude,
you're going to see.
I get
Yeah,
frustrated texting. I can't even text.
no. So you'll see that when I'm
Terrible.
typing these out. And normally, I will tell you, I use the chat functionality on my phone way more than I type. So
Do
just
you
quick
talk?
hack.
Yeah, you chat into it. You talk to it
Yeah, I
essentially
tack.
rather than typing. Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to it all the time. It's just way faster. It learns more that way.
That's crazy. You can just type this in and rock and roll here.
Yep.
That's so cool. Yeah. I've been messing with ChatGPT more and like just so many different things for me. And it really is, it's like you have to play with it. Like you can't stop using it because you're not good at it or because you don't, like you have to just keep articulating to it, keep changing, keep trying. Like I mean, I've almost borderline stopped using Google. I go straight to ChatGPT and rather than, I'm asking more specific question rather than being like best, like the other day I was Google searching like best TV for a sunny room, right? Like things like that. And then now I'm just going in like, hey, I have a sunny living room. In the middle of the day, there's a lot of sunlight. I get glare on my TV. I need a new TV. What are my best? And then it's like, boom, it hits you. And you're like, wow. It's like tells you, all the nonsense on Google with the sponsored ads and, all the sponsored ads that come up and having to shift through like the New York Times nonsense and like all these different, you know, aha gotcha kind of like SEO pages that you don't know if it's legit or not.
Yeah, like
AI
the
is just
review pages.
populating. Yes, man.
Yes.
There's so many websites. That's all they do is make lists and things to drive traffic.
So it's
So now you don't
funny.
know if those lists are valid.
I did the same thing. I was trying to figure out if I was going to buy a tankless water heater or a normal one, whether I should stick with electric or gas. I'm like, hey, you run the whole comparison. Here's how much water I
Mm,
use. You tell
jeez.
me. And it literally gave me in like 2 to 3 minutes. So here, there's just high level. I didn't put the booth in. We didn't put a marketing plan in or anything. I didn't tell them who the ideal prospect is. I just
Wow.
want to do
Look at
this
that
as a
work.
simple example. But what you can see is it's mapping out the sequence, what we should mail, the ideas. And when this is done, I'll just ask it, hey, you know what? Actually write number one for
Yeah.
me. So once
Dude,
you start this conversation,
I love that it's giving the week and it's giving the timeline and it's telling you how to space it out. Cause I think a lot of this stuff, it's not that people don't know how to do it, but it's like if you don't know what a Fibonacci sequence is, or it's basically saying like this is something you can leverage and you can utilize. And I'm sure you could dive in and say, hey, I need X emails written. I need more like the actual content of these things written. Like, hey, we at Seagate, this is what we do. This is what our offer is. And then, you could just expand on those emails so that they're 80% written. And then of course you have to tinker with them yourself.
one of the things we can help create if it's valuable to the audience, we can make like a checklist of like, hey, here's your audience, your offer. If you fill this form out and upload this and then go ask for it, it'll get you 80% of the way there. We can do that for the
Amazing.
guests. It's really easy.
That's
Um,
amazing. And go back to that I want to make sure people can see the prompt though, because I think the prompt is important as a
yep.
low level fiddler of ChatGPT myself. I think the prompts and the way you're speaking to it is the best advice I've been given and that I keep using is you talk to ChatGPT like you have the most talented assistant in the world, right? Like you have some, and like Maisha is asking, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in late. What is a Fibonacci sequence? So, Maisha, the Fibonacci sequence is essentially a sequence that spans over time in which you communicate to somebody. It's kind of like a proven theory, essentially. And a lot of it has to do with email sequencing, but it's a touch point of sequence. So, what we're saying is you can relate this to emailing, you can relate this to things that you're sending out. Doug just put it in the chat. It'll do a better job than me blabbing about it. So,
You nailed it. That was pretty good.
okay, cool, good, nice.
Yeah, you nailed it. But this image here, if you guys can still see the page,
Yep, we see it.
that little image there with the 21, this is like the how a seashell is formed. I'm never doing that rhyme, but it literally, it's a scientific equation. It's recurring in nature. It's very hard for us to resist. It's how the best marketing campaigns have ever been written. And you can either do it leading up to an event or after an event. But this is the proven, you, especially when it comes to writing inside
Yeah.
of AI, this will do it. One small nuance, and this is more a current bug than anything else. Model 4 constantly puts green check marks. If you want cleaner copy and you or your marketing department does have the pro mode, it writes really well
Nice.
versus
So you
this.
wrote here, can you write me an email for number 3? This says the subject, last chance, exclusive giveaway and VIP access at NAB. It has the body, the countdown is on. NAB is just days away, and we have something special for you. Join us at booth number blank to experience our latest innovations firsthand. Plus, so it's like, yeah, is this perfect? But it gets you moving in the right direction so that you can get the information out there and edit and jump in, and might not be something that you as an event marketer are tasked with yourself, that you're leveraging a marketing department, right? But you can get the ball rolling. This is a tool. I mean, that took Doug 5 minutes, maybe
Yep.
max, right? To get the ball rolling there. Doug, talk to me about data, right? Because I think a lot of times data is a struggle for people. No one's going to hand you perfect data for every show that you're at. But my opinion, and just a thought that I had with AI, is if you're going to trade shows that you go to annually or regularly. Obviously, and we had a person early on asking about lead retrieval and capturing. You should be capturing and keeping track of your own data. So my opinion would be, Doug, that if you are doing a good job of capturing data, personalization, labeling it, putting information in on touch points and everything. Is there a way, as like, hey, I've been going to the show for 10 years. I have all this data. Can I load it into ChatGPT? How can it help me now work moving forward with those contacts?
Absolutely. So I will tell
Okay.
you, chat's actually better at processing data
Yep.
than it is marketing. It's just most people select the wrong version to use. And let me just show you
Got it.
what I mean by that. When you are in Chat GPT, and this is specific to chat, certain platforms are better with data than others, but in Chat GPT, using 3, either mini or at, is probably some of the best at dealing with data. So mini high is like coding and logic, which is what you're
Oh,
processing.
so these are like modes, right,
Yeah,
Doug? So it's kind of like in your car has like a sport mode,
a
normal,
hundred
eco.
percent.
These are different modes that you're leveraging to sort of initiate it in a direction, correct?
100%. So
Wow.
most people, you could use O1 or O3 when you're looking at data, because that's what it's designed to process. If I went into
Yeah.
pro mode, pro is designed for reasoning. It's trying to give me an answer to a problem or challenge. But if I give it
Okay.
a data set, it doesn't even let me upload data. So
Oh, wow. I adjusted
selecting
it.
the right mode will give you significantly better outputs. Now, for the most part, it's going to preset to 4. That's really good. Like
Mhm.
it will work there. It's fine. It'll be able to process data. But I would 100% be using Chat GPT, or you can use the other versions to process
Mhm.
data, but you need to be very specific on what you're trying to ascertain. What am
Mhm.
I looking at this data for? And I will tell you on our PE side, so run a private equity firm, we use it all the time to assess 3 years of financial data, the last 12 months to help figure out valuations. It is
Wow.
unbelievably powerful at looking at data, but you just have to be clear on what you're asking. Are you wanting to do a cost analysis on all of your expenditures after the last year?
Yeah.
Are you looking to analyze lead data? All of those things vary. Just be
Okay.
clear in the ask and you'll get really clear output when it's processing any type of
Damn.
financial data.
That's super cool. I think I asked on the data because I think a lot of times from the marketing side, as we discussed, a lot of event marketers are working with either a partner or working internally, right, with marketing. So they're not doing the work themselves, but
Yeah.
essentially having a say and direction. But data, they have access to data, right? They are trying to collect data, they are trying to use and leverage data. And I think this would be with what ChatGPT is capable of, this is an argument for people that are exhibiting at multiple shows, series of shows of tracking your data. And the same way that sales leverages a CRM, like the more you put in, the more you get out. And
Yeah.
so as an event marketer, the more data you gather, so like, hey, spoke to this person, you're going to grade your interaction 1 to 10. This was an 8, meaning it was an engaging interaction. You're going to grade the lead. Oh, it's a 4 out of 5, right? Like you have these grading scales. The more you put in and the more detail you give it, and then you load it into ChatGPT, the more you can ask of it and the more you can utilize that information.
Could you mind if I show you something? So one, there's two steps to that. If you're
Yeah.
working with a third party, I would encourage people to use ChatGPT to create your agency brief, but then ask them to include ways to track and quantify certain results. So it'll include, I'll just show you an example because this, if
Yeah,
you
go
work
ahead.
with third parties, this, it's funny, we do this even within our own agency.
I like how sweet you are. This is awesome. Telling it's doing good.
Yeah, I just do that because when it takes over, it'll spare me.
Yeah.
It'll take everyone else first. I don't want to die so I'm just always nice to
Like,
chat.
man, this guy Doug was pretty cool. He was all
Yeah.
right. He gave us a
Yeah.
pat on the back.
Now,
And
one
then
thing I'm
after
going to
this, Doug.
add,
Oh,
what's
good.
that?
Now, I was gonna say after this, I want to get to talking about like some ABM approach because some people have an ABM strategy at their company, right? Also being aligned with sales on the front end of things. Well, we touched a little bit on that with sales, right? With targets and who are the whales, who are the big prospects, and you know all
Yep.
that good stuff. But
Duty.
this, all right. So you
I'll let
prompted
this run. We
ChatGPT. You
could chat
said,
while this is pumping it out.
yeah, you said this is awesome. We work with a third party agency. All of the above needs to be put into an agency brief, but also include a KPI plan so we can collect data to track and quantify results. ChatGPT, it's telling you here's a structured agency brief for your NAB Fibonacci sequence campaign, including KPIs to track performance, quantitative results. So you're basically saying, as an event marketer, I want a Fibonacci sequence to promote and market my appearance at shows. And this is telling you how to ask for one
Yep.
from an agency or from your marketing department.
Either one. So if you work
Wow.
with any third party and you just want to brief them, the other piece, if you have standard agency brief documents or even internal marketing brief documents, you
Yeah.
can drop it in and say, hey, here's a sample of a briefing document we do for our agency. Can you help me give a brief or create a brief for my agency partner, for my marketing team? And you can work within that. It'll help fill in all the blanks and just speed up a ton of time for you guys. So you can
Man.
upload that. We
We
use
have we got a question for you, buddy. It says it's from Maisha. She said, "How do you upload the data? I always have error issues."
number one depends on the data. If you use Excel, sometimes just go in, resave the Excel file, make sure it's just XLS. That'll make it easier. You may need to switch the mode to one that's doing it. Certain times, if you run into issues, if it's an old chat, you might just need to start a new chat and go from there because then once they do updates, sometimes you get a bug and it won't let you update old chats. Or if the model changes, it won't do it. Just make sure you have the right model selected, either 3 or 4, like O3 or O4, and that'll upload and process almost all data. Pro, you'll run into issues frequently, but that should be it. If you have issues, take a screenshot, send it to me, and I'm happy to answer it for you.
Nice.
You do need a subscription to upload
Yeah.
files. Yes.
What's it, $20 a month right now? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
worth
I mean, absolutely amazing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about on this pre-end. I'm a big believer in aligning with sales. I talk all the time. Event marketers have to have a stakeholder, a partner. They have to have somebody in sales that they can hold accountable, but that they can also bring in on the front end and say, you want this, I want this. Let's go make this happen. And part of that is pre-show marketing. So for me, it is, I have here identifying those game-changing prospects with sales. They know. Sales knows if they're any good at what they do, they know. And then you're able to identify either through old data, research that they do, who's going to be at the show or not. Is there a chance? I think this is where, as an event marketer, if you want sales to help get asses in the seats and get people there, Yes, Lori, salespeople they are oddly lazy and not lazy. They're very strange. They're like the athlete that sits on the side eating McDonald's and then gets up and runs a 40 in like 4.2. They're very strange creatures. I agree with you. They're like lazy and not. They're like the most lazy, unlazy people ever. But in a suit, yes, in a suit, yeah, it's a good point. I think as event marketers, as we're talking about, you're working with marketing to craft this offer. You got to be driving this bus because it's your event and you need to get results and you need to get people there and you have to leverage all your partners around you. You need to get sales, the offer, the collateral, the QR codes, the invitations, everything they need. And then I think, yes, to a degree, with some salespeople, you are going to have to sell them on why them helping you helps them. Help me help you, right? And some event marketers are really good at that. And they've crafted a way to relay it. That's my rant on sales. I think they have to be involved. And I think they're a key player in getting people there.
Funny you mentioned this because we just did a go to market for $1
Lori
billion.
loves salespeople. I say, Lori
If
loves them.
if you find the oldest crotchety sales guy, I'll just call it what it is in an
Yeah.
organization, and ask him what would make the trade show a hit for him, and actually sit down and get the real answer, you're going to be surprised. And I guarantee you, to ask him like, hey, you've been here 20 years, 15 years. Tell me like what some of the best trade shows were and why. You're actually going to be amazed if you can build that rapport with him, what you'll find out about it works. Chances are it's always going to come back to some bar story or something. But what you can find is what was the bridge? What was it at that show that enabled them to meet a new prospect or deepen a relationship? And their insight's really powerful. We just did a go-to-market strategy, $1 billion company, they're in ag. We literally interviewed 80 of their salespeople. So I'm talking a lot of what you're mentioning. Like we got this feedback and we determined, you know what the number one sales catalyst was for this company? It was an event. It was the same events every year. They
Wow.
were 100% reliant on event teams to make
Mhm.
or break their year. Not
Wow.
one person differed. It was consistent. So you have an incredibly valuable role in the sales process. And the better you can get that alignment, I think the more powerful it's going to be. But to the bigger part of the question, Matt, you were mentioning that ABM approach. If you can understand who their ideal clients are, or even that subset of like, hey, these are this might be their 25, but there's going to be similarities amongst all of that sit within their ABM list. And for those who don't know, ABM stands for account-based marketing. It's a very specific methodology on how sales goes to market. It's more of a sales driven approach to marketing. That process and helping understand that is going to make event marketers' jobs easier because you can say, hey, we know you're trying to do this. We want to help these people get here, but this is what we need of you to make this the win. And it might be, hey, like this is our goal. It's going to help impede, like they will be less of an impediment to the process.
Yeah.
Instead, they'll actually go write the cards and invite people.
And I think that goes back to what we said earlier. We're talking about that's that catalyst. That's where salespeople in those moments, in those experiences, that's where they do make a connection. They do thrive. They do accelerate the deals. Like this is like the unsung here, like the things that are, I say this all the time. These are the things that are happening, the progress that is made at trade shows and events. And as an event marketer, you've been there, you've seen it, we have to start capturing these things somehow and leveraging them even further. I just think a part of the reason why events have stood the test of time and that they're so powerful is those moments, is those face to face, being in person, experiencing things together. Doug, we got a question. So I don't know if the name is pronounced Gina or Gina or Diane. I'm unsure, so I apologize, but it's a great question though. Many times we get an attendee company list a week or so before the event. How can we use AI to leverage that information to our advantage besides just downloading it? Any thoughts? So they're getting a list of attendees a week before the event. I love that actually.
I'm going to say, let's say you can't download it. One thing that AI is pretty good at is if you can just get screenshots, it can process and put things into tables for you. So if you ever get into situations where like, hey, I can't download this, screenshots are amazing. It'll put things into a table and organize it. Second one, because if you can get that into any form of Excel or table-based format, you can use AI to help come up with any type of email sequence, app booth engagement, follow-up sequences, and help figure out how to do one-to-one. So the advantage of it, think of it like a mail merge. So what I put in those emails, we can help it come up with unique crafted lists themselves. The other piece you can do is have it find traits. So one of the cool things with some of the deep research pieces that are available, whether it's Grok, whether it's the pro version, Gemini, you can search for like companies and figure out what are challenges that these particular roles may have in our industry or may be looking for at this trade show, and quickly spin up some new ideas for different engagements you have there. Do you have a specific show or use case? Maybe give you a little bit more detailed example.
And while we wait on that, what I would add into this is essentially, I mean, if you're getting this list, I don't know, again, I don't know how accurate it is or it isn't, but let's just assume that it's accurate. I think that's where having this offer ready to go is so vital, because if I would be jumping on LinkedIn and sending direct messages to these people, and saying, hey, I see you're going to be at X show here, and like, you're popping in this offer, and whether you have it's Expo West in March, I just think that's once you have this information, it just becomes a hustle to a degree. Events a little bit are a hustle. They're a little bit guerrilla marketing style stuff. You have to put the work in, and whether that's having a couple sales team, a couple marketers, I would be leveraging that list. Not sure if you need to go through it and kind of scrub it.
Yeah, it's a natural product one. So when you get into that, some of the things I would put in that list and figure out like their companies, what they're there for challenge wise, create some company lists, but use in those cases, if you don't have defined strategy, use it for brainstorming, use it for research. Like Matt said, I would get it over to your salespeople as quickly as possible and just get them into the Fibonacci sequence as fast as possible.
Could it do research for you, Doug? Like if you have those names and email addresses with the company, could you load that list up and say, hey, I need as much information on these people as possible, or I need a
Yep.
sum of just trying to think how you could expedite what it is that you need.
100%. You can get
Okay.
it to research. And there are different AI tools that'll help automate that into that. And this is more advanced. That's something called agents that can automatically push them into CRMs and you can create workflows. But using some of the deep research tools, if you plug in the list and say, hey, tell me everything you can find about this person or people similar to it to better hone our approach at the show.
All right, we got 5 minutes left here, and we're not even through pre-show. It's probably its own show, and then let's just touch on post-show
Sure.
briefly. I'll give a little bit of my thoughts. We got the question earlier about a lead retrieval system. I think lead retrieval systems, especially now, they are simplified, they are cost effective, they connect into CRMs, they give notifications, updates, reminders. They are far more sophisticated than they've ever been than a badge scan per se, right? So I think when you use a lead retrieval system the right way, tagging leads, cold, warm, hot, putting personalization notes in them, that is so much the organization and the detail. That is so much of what fuels post-show success and post-show engagement. Doug and I have talked a ton about like speed to follow up, following up right away, right? Like at that day on the show floor, however you have to do, if you have to connect them via email and you have some salespeople on standby, whatever it may be, that speed to lead, that touch point, I think is incredibly valuable. I don't know if AI can help with that, but we can get into that at the end here. And I think ultimately post-show to me comes down to who owns post-show, because it's kind of a mix, really. And I think it honestly is sales, but it's also the event marketer. I know a lot of the event marketers that we work with and talk to that are really good at what they do. They are like pushing on sales, and they have an advocate in sales. So, but I think the information that you pass on, the follow-up that you create, checking the notes in the CRM, making sure things are being followed up with, all gives you a feedback loop.
I will tell you, if you used AI pre-show to package up what you do at the booth immediately when the show ends and the 3 days after, not the 3 business days, the 3 days after, you will be better than 80% of the industry. And I will tell you, you can borrow this from SDRs in the info product space. If you have somebody that their sole job at the booth is to do immediate follow-up and connect them with a salesperson, take it off their plate. If we
Yeah.
know we got lazy guys in suits, let's just take that off and say, hey, this person, hey, I was glad you were here. Glad you got to meet with so-and-so. I've put this email together so you guys can connect next Wednesday, next Tuesday, next Thursday. Nail that immediately and transfer the accountability, but make sure the email or the postcard or whatever is sent that day. The people that are disciplined enough to do the hard sales work the nights of the show on that day they meet somebody will be infinitely more successful. That's the simplest win.
Yeah. So Harris said that automation can immediately task a salesperson, which I agree,
Yes.
Harris. That, that goes into your lead retrieval, your CRM and those nature. Lori joked here. She goes, yes, please give me more responsibility. She said, just kidding. I don't want any additional tasks. Lori, I think unfortunately, that's kind of the nature and where this is going is that event marketers are not just executing anymore. They're being asked to do a lot, far more than they've ever been. They're having to throw their hat in the ring and push for strategy. They're having to throw their hat in the ring and push for measurement and ROI while executing all the events. And then, yeah, on the backside, I think the kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't thing here, Lori, is essentially that if events are at the end of the day, if events don't start churning results and measurables and contributing to sales, and you have a way of quantifying and showing it, it's eventually resources are going to get cut, right? They just are. So it's almost like you might have to just do the upfront, do a little bit more work, do the hard work to kind of prove everybody wrong around you, and then say, hey, I need more resources. I'm doing all this to make sure it's happening. It is, she says, I get it. It's just so stupid. Yeah, it is. And they need a little bit of a push. I think one of my best advice is getting an advocate in sales, like a friend, a leader, somebody that you can essentially that gets it. What you're saying about getting it and these leads and everything that we're talking about, you got to find someone that gets it. And if you don't have that, it is difficult, but you got to be persistent. You got to follow up. Super, super important. All right, we're running on time here. We didn't get to the post-show part. That's typically how the show goes sometimes. I think pre-show is great. Again, another show, 40 plus people. I mean, we've not had a show yet with like less than 40 people in 2025. So I hope we continue to deliver good shows, good information, good community in the chat. I think we're live again in 2 weeks. I don't know. Ish and Cody can tell me that in the chat. You can check out our LinkedIn, my LinkedIn. We'll be promoting what we're talking about, what we're doing. A lot of helpful stuff in this chat that we're going to take from it and essentially build more shows and give more information out. And hopefully it's helpful. One thing I will say to everybody that's listening to this is still on with us, ourselves and Doug over at Giant Goat, we're going to create a playbook from a lot of this stuff that we have here. We're going to put together actual information. Kathy's saying part 2. We may have to, Kathy. We've had to do another part 2 on another show. Cody and I, because it went on and there's a lot of information and depth of detail to go to. I want depth on this show. I don't want it to just be surface level. So yeah, we may, but like I said, we are going to put a playbook together. It's going to be co-branded with Rockway and Giant Goat. And it's something we're going to add to and build to and figure if we can put things in there like the Fibonacci sequence, examples, strategy process for figuring out the audience and trying to build out the right offer per se. So Doug, man, thanks for doing this. Great as always.
Pleasure.
I love the live chat GPT stuff was fantastic, man. That was cool to see.
My pleasure. Happy to come back again for the part 2.
Awesome. All right, Doug Foley, Giant Goat, man, myth, legend. Everybody, thanks for doing this. Cody, Ish, thanks my whole team. Rock and rolling as always. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we see you. I believe 2 weeks. We'll see. Adios.